We are racing in Abu Dhabi. Once again, everything is on the line. Number 2 in the Drivers' Championship, number 1 in the Constructors' Championship. But we're not here to talk about any of that. We've already done that. This is Turn 1. We're your hosts, Thomas.
And Jeremiah.
This is your official, way too early 2025 Formula One predictions video. We don't even have the full driver lineup for next year ready to go. We thought all the pieces that were in place. We thought all the drivers were settled. And then just as of yesterday, Checo might be on his way out after Abu Dhabi. That's not 100% confirmed. So we'll talk about it after it is confirmed. So we got a couple things still lingering. We don't know anything about the car performance for next year. We haven't had any testing, obviously, of next year's cars that has been made public. So this is why it's way too early. We might do another one of these as the season gets a little bit closer. Jeremiah and I have both broken down our list of constructors, drivers, rookies, and some wildcard picks that we are going to go through. And we're going to start off with a bang, breaking down our constructors' rankings for next year. Jeremiah, do you want to kick us off?
Do we want to do your top 5 in constructors and then my top 5, or vice versa, and then go to the bottom 5?
Yeah, let's do it. So let's go 5 to 1. Start with yours.
Okay, in the 5 spot for next year, ladies and gentlemen, give me Aston Martin. You know what? They're not going to make too much improvement because Adrian Newey just got there, but he'll be there in 2026 when they actually start making the jump. So give me about the same that they did this year for next year. Number 4, and this is where it gets a little controversial, give me Red Bull. That's right. They may finish 3rd this year. They're whooping Mercedes this year, but next year, not so much, as in the 3rd spot, I've got Mercedes making the jump past Red Bull. I don't think Red Bull is going to have the same car. I think Mercedes is going to have some things figured out, and I think George is going to have a year. Why not? Number 2, give me McLaren. I think that these guys are so close to being there, but they're not there yet. And the one thing that they're missing out on is the one thing that the number 1 and the constructors winner for 2025 brings to the table: experience. And that is Ferrari with Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc.
You are a crazy man. All right, I'll give you mine, then let's dissect them after I give mine. Okay, in the 5 spot, give me Aston Martin as well. I think a very similar season next year to this year, with Alonso getting the bulk of the points and Lance Stroll just tagging along for the ride, crashing here and there and doing whatever he can. Number 4, give me Ferrari. I do not have them doing nearly as well as you do. I do not think the Hamilton and Leclerc pairing is going to work. We can talk about that more throughout this video when we get to our drivers especially. Number 3, I've got a little bit more faith in them, but that number 2 driver spot being a question mark has me worried. Number 3, give me Red Bull.
Jeez.
A little bit of a fall off from this year because I don't think they have the car. Like you said, they're losing Adrian Newey to Aston. What is that going to be? The impact on Red Bull is going to be a lot greater next year than the impact positively on Aston Martin is next year, by far. Number 2, Mercedes. I think George Russell is improving. I think Mercedes has shown a glimpse of improvement this year, and I think that they're going to be more consistent next year, and they're trying to build up Kimi Antonelli. I think Toto Wolff is going to go all out to put Kimi in a good spot to be their next prominent Mercedes driver. Number 1, by a mile, this will be a blowout of a season. Give me McLaren running away with the Constructors Championship, almost similar to how Red Bull did it in 2023.
Jeez. All right, let me tell you why you're wrong. You're telling me that a Newey-less Red Bull will still manage to finish the exact same as they finished this year?
You've got to remember, everybody at Red Bull is still probably the best at their job. Now, you take away the car designer, that hurts. They will replace him somehow, some way. Christian Horner still runs a very good team. No matter what you think of him behind the scenes, all the rumors you hear, the Helmut Marko stuff, the Verstappen stuff, it's a lot of talk. The guy has gotten results from day one back in 2005 when they started the thing. I think they will be just fine. It is still Red Bull Racing. They have all the resources they could possibly want. one of the better factories, they will get it done.
Within
I think the bigger question here is Ferrari, which we can debate about, but what else do you have for why I'm wrong?
how do you Max Verstappen, unless he wins the World Drivers' Championship with massive amounts of points next year, because of the fact that we have an unknown for driver 2. Let's say we don't have an unknown. Let's say it's Sergio again, but this time they don't have Nui and it's still Max. I don't see them finishing third again.
If the number 2 driver, whether it's Checo or Yuki or Liam Lawson or whoever, if they finish 7th, 8th, or 9th, it's very reasonable that Red Bull could finish third if things play out similarly to this year. Because right now they're sitting third, and that's basically where the standings are. I mean, Max is number 1, of course.
Yeah,
but
Max clinched the title 3 races before the final race.
Yeah, but Checo's 8th, so you could even get some points there. I'm not saying that Red Bull's going to be, far and away ahead of Ferrari or anything. It could be a battle, but...
All right, we'll talk a little bit Ferrari. You think that the pairing of Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc will be terrible?
Yeah, we're on opposite ends of the polls here. So let us know in the comments, where do y'all have Ferrari? And this is why it's controversial. We've never seen... I mean, okay, I take that back. We have seen Ferrari do this so many times, where they bring in the former champion. It's never gotten them a championship. When they brought in Kimi, when they brought in Sebastian Vettel, it did not get them a constructors, I don't think.
Yeah, I was about to say Kimi won the drivers.
Yeah, Kimi won the drivers.
Constructors.
But every time Ferrari since Schumacher has brought in a champion, they haven't won the constructors.
Correct us if that's wrong, by the way. I think he's right, but...
We could Google it, but we're not going to.
All right, let me tell you why I think that's wrong. I think that Lewis Hamilton feels betrayed a little bit by the Mercedes team favoring so heavy on George Russell. I think with this newfound confidence that he's getting from Ferrari, in that they're making him an ambassador of the team, they have all the confidence in the world that he's going to get number 8, and they want him to do it in that car. Now, partner that up with the fact that Charles Leclerc has been hungry since the small taste that he got in 2022 when him and Max went back-to-back for the first half of the season. Just back and forth, with him winning, Max winning, him winning, Max winning. I think he's hungry. I think he's the most hungry on the grid, and I think he wants it. And with that pairing right there, plus the experience factor, the fact that Lewis has been there, done that, seen the aggressive drivers, knows how to deal with them, and Charles been there, done that, racing with Max Verstappen, plus he's been in the sport. Who would his competition be? Lando and George Russell, who he's been racing against his entire career. I think that partnership right there is going to sing championships, but maybe I'm wrong.
What's the one factor you're forgetting in the Ferrari equation?
You could be talking about team strategy, but their strategy this year was not bad. It really wasn't.
Also the car.
Huh?
Also the car.
Okay, so then you could be talking about durability, but their durability wasn't that bad this year either. I think that since 2022, the main three things that Ferrari had going against them was team strategy, tire wear, and durability for that car. And slowly but surely through the years, 2023, 2024, I think they have been chipping away at all of those problems. And in 2025, they'll have everything figured out as they bring in 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton.
Last thing I'll say on it, they announced that move very early. They announced the Lewis move before the season started, which leads me to believe they have been designing their 2025 car with Lewis in mind. Couple problems with that. One, it's going to mess over Charles, and I feel like Charles has been messed over almost every year by Ferrari's car design. I mean, it's never been a good design for Charles, except for maybe 2022, kind of.
In 2023, I think it was more designed around Carlos Sainz, and Charles struggled with the car.
Because Ferrari was just saying they designed the fastest car, right? They don't design it for the drivers, but whatever. I think they are going to do such a 180 on their car design that not only is it going to mess up Charles Leclerc, but it's also not going to work for Lewis.
It's a possibility.
Because they haven't done that. Okay, so looking at the other teams, we still have Mercedes and McLaren. I've got Mercedes in the 2 spot. You have them in the 3 spot. I mean, that could probably go either way, depending on the Red Bull situation, I think. Um, the big kicker for me is I've got McLaren running away with it in one, whereas you have McLaren two and Ferrari one. Explain where you think those line up. Is Ferrari running away with it, or is McLaren like right there?
I think it's a fight. I think McLaren brings the fight to them strong. I think Ferrari still wins, and I think that they win before Abu Dhabi. But I think that it's a dogfight throughout the entire season, and we're not going to know that Ferrari's going to win before Abu Dhabi until nearing the end of the season, because I think it's going to be back and forth between these two the entirety of the season. Here's why I think Ferrari's going to pull away. I think that Oscar Piastri is slowly but surely, since his rookie year, closing that gap to Lando far and away between like any other driver lineup that we've ever seen. I mean, those two are dang near matched up entirely now. And one day Oscar's probably going to pass Lando, but here's the deal. This year has shown us one thing, and that's that Oscar is ready to win, but he's just barely off of Lando. And maybe not in qualifying pace. Maybe he's beating Lando in qualifying. But when it comes to race pace, he's just barely not there yet. And I think that next year we're going to see more of the same as he's slowly starting to chip away at the gap at Lando. I think they're going to take points away from each other, which you would think that doesn't matter in the constructors. But with them battling, that's going to slow them down and allow other cars to catch up and pass. I think that without McLaren deciding who's going to be their number one driver next year, I think they're going to let them toss it up in the air between the two. That's going to hinder them in points total for the end of the season.
Yeah, I do have questions on the McLaren strategy. It doesn't ultimately affect the constructors, the strategy, like switching the drivers around, like we saw this year on 2 different occasions, switching the drivers around. But it does play with the drivers mentally, and it does play with the driver standings 100%. I think McLaren has just shown 3 years of consistent improvement. And if you carry that into next season, I have no reason to believe they will decline next year. They have all the same pieces in place. They have a really good driver lineup. They seem to have a very good engineering team, a very good strategy. I mean, McLaren has made very few strategical errors this year, if any, other than the team orders thing to move Oscar ahead of Lando a couple of times. But those, could be seen as errors or not. They still got the points they wanted. I just see them running away with it. I mean, this year it's a little bit close with Ferrari right now. Ferrari's been very under the radar. I think we talked about that in our past couple of videos, how Ferrari's been under the radar this year with Charles getting a couple of wins. But I think McLaren just blows it out next year.
I think we can both finish this little top 5 off in agreement that Mercedes is going to have a way better season next year than they had this year.
Yeah, I agree. You've got them third. I've got them second. Again, the Red Bull thing plays into that in some way. And then me having Ferrari down next year, you having Ferrari up, it puts them in a better spot next year for sure. And we don't have too much movement. I mean, the big gap this year is between those top 4 and Aston. That's not going to change next year, I don't think. So Mercedes isn't going to lose any to the back marker teams. It's not like that.
Which, speaking of, let's move into our back markers. Why don't you kick us off with your... let's do this more fun. Let's go 5 to 10. I want your last name to be who you think is going to finish the worst.
Okay, we'll go 6 to 10.
Or 6 to 10.
Yeah, 6. Give me... Oh, I'm looking at your list. Hang on. 6. Give me Williams in 6th place.
Ooh.
Now, that is a pretty big jump over where they are this year, currently in 9th, but that's the Carlos Sainz factor, folks. Welcome the Spaniard to Williams. He's ready to go. Number 7, give me the RB team, old Visa Cash App out there getting 7th. Not too much different than where they are right now in 8th place. Number 8, give me Haas. Again, basically just flipping the RB and Haas team. No big surprises there, although Haas does have a new driver lineup for next year, so interesting stuff there. Number 9, Alpine. That's a decline from this year, but honestly not really considering how Alpine started. It hasn't been a good year. They got a lot of points in Sao Paulo with the rain. I think next year is not going to be much better with the Gasly and Doohan lineup, so there's Alpine. And number 10, going into complete utter, no one cares about them anymore. The Kick Steak Sauber team. They squeaked out some points in 2024 somehow, some way. They will not
Shout out
next
to
year.
Joe Guan Yu.
They will not get a single point in next year's season.
Jeez. Okay.
Give me yours.
Number 6, give me the return of Alpine. Now, listen, this is a team that was Renault and Alpine following after that. It has always been either middle of the pack or just behind the top two. They finished third a year before, or not year before, but in the past. That this is a team that's used to being right there. Give me the return of Alpine in the 6th spot. 7, give me Williams. I think that's a no-brainer. I think Albon's strong. I think Carlos Sainz is angry and hungry that no top team wanted him. 7's an easy Williams. 8, give me VCarb. This one's a little tough for me because it is going to be questionable because we don't know who's going to be in that Red Bull 2 seat. It could be Sergio Perez, it could be some outside source, or it could be one of the drivers currently there, Liam Lawson or Yuki Tsunoda, and that will change up VCarb a little bit. Give me 9, Haas. I think Haas is going to take a step back from what they did this year, given the fact that their best driver, Hulkenberg, is going somewhere else. Their other driver, Magnussen, who started to look real good in the second half of the season here, is out of the sport as we know of at the moment, and they're going to have a completely different lineup. 2 people that, one, I think Oliver Behrman will be good, but I don't think he's there yet. And the other person, I don't trust at all, Esteban Ocon. Sorry, you lost your seat for the last race of the season in 2024. I don't trust you at all. And of course, to round it out, you guessed it, Steak, Kick, Sauber, who cares, F1.
Yeah, we've got to mention that the Sauber team will have the pairing of Hulkenberg and Bortoleto. Hulkenberg, definitely not in the prime of his career anymore. He did get some points at Haas. It's mainly the car that's the issue at Sauber. If Valtteri can't get any points, I don't think Hulk is going to get any points.
That I'll accept.
And Bortoleto, we don't know enough about him to say one way or another that he's going to be able to really outperform that car, because that's what you got to do when you're in a Sauber in 2025.
All right, so let's break this down just a little bit. I don't want to spend as much time as the top 5.
We've only got one difference here, and that's the placement of Alpine.
Right. That's what I want to find your opinion on. I want to know how you got to where you got with Alpine and why they aren't improving.
So we're going to do some rookie rankings here in a minute. I have Jack Doohan at the bottom of my rookie rankings. Nothing against him personally. I just think the others are better. Him paired up with Pierre is not inspiring. It's more inspiring than the Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly pairing, just because Jack Doohan is new. But I don't think Alpine has it together. They have turned over so much staff. They've turned over team principals. They've turned over strategists. They turned over engineering personnel. I don't think they're on the right path yet. I think they might put some pieces in place next year to go into 2026 in a better place. I don't think 2025 is going to be an improvement for them, or even a maintain where they are today. Because again, they got a lot of points in Sao Paulo that they really shouldn't have gotten. They should be down a couple of spots in the constructors right now.
I'll agree with you on getting an astronomical amount of points in Sao Paulo and maybe being higher than they should have been for this season. But I've seen a lot of improvement in Alpine from where they started at the beginning of the season to where they are now, to where now we're consistently seeing either Pierre Gasly or Esteban Ocon somewhere in the top 10. Well, now we're not going to see Esteban Ocon at all. But Pierre Gasly, he finished, I think, 5th in the last race, giving him enough points for Alpine to jump over Haas again, even though Haas did have that spot. I see Alpine improving. I see things that I like. I see them middle of the pack, if not leading the middle of the pack material. And I just see them jumping up next year. And I don't see Jack Doohan as weak as you think he is, but we'll definitely get to that in our next segment, or in a rookie standings segment.
Okay, so I'll put all that on the screen so you can see our constructors rankings as we go through them, and then we'll have them kind of up now where you can see both of our side-by-side, our 10 constructors rankings. But you're right. Let's move into the drivers. We've only done the top 10 here because it's just really hard to place all 20 drivers. It's once you get out of the top 10, who cares, first off? And also you could switch them around because there's so little points outside of the top 10 that it's too hard. So let's let's do this. Did you like how we did the constructors, or do you want to mix it up?
I liked it, but if you have something else in mind, why not?
I say we just go 10-1 and then break it down afterwards.
Okay.
I'll give mine. I'll give a little bit of commentary, then you give yours, and we'll go from there.
Do you want to hold off on who we think the top three are for a little suspense, or just 10-1?
No, we can do that. Let's do that. Let's hold off on the top three. We'll go 10-4.
All right.
All right. Number 10, Carlos Sainz in the Williams. He's going to kill it. He's going to have a day at Williams. He's going to have a year at Williams. Number 9, Fernando Alonso, very similar next year to this year. He's consistent in that Aston. I don't think Aston's going to see tremendous gains next year from the Newey benefit. Those will come in 26. So again, not expecting too much from Aston other than holding pace. Number 8, a little bit complicated. Give me the Red Bull number 2 driver. Whether that is Checo, Yuki, Lawson, or somebody else, I think they finish 8th. Number 7, give me Kimi Antonelli in his new seat at Mercedes. I think he will do fine in his first year. 7th is very respectable, but again, Mercedes still has some things to work out with their car, so he's going to be 7th. Number 6, here's where it gets fun. Give me Sir Lewis Hamilton in the 6th spot. Again, it's just not going to be the year he wants at Ferrari. He's going to take that Ferrari money and go to 6th place and be just fine. Number 5, Charles Leclerc. This is how Ferrari gets 4th on my list. They will be consistently getting points every race, but those points will come in the 3 through 8th positions, not the 1 and 2 positions, outside of maybe 1 or 2 races a year that they jump up and win. Number 4, George Russell. Slight improvements every year, minus his 1 year where he was super inconsistent. Again, Mercedes is going to cater to him a little bit more now that he's going to be their primary driver. I think he has a decent year finishing 4th. All right, so we'll stop there at number 4 with George Russell. We'll flip over to your list. What do you got?
Man.
Is it a little bit different, maybe?
I think you'll see a lot of similarities at first. In the 10th spot, give me Pierre Gasly. I talked about this in the constructors. Alpine, the return. Give me 10, Pierre Gasly to slide right up in there. Number 9, give me Fernando Alonso. I think we both agree on this. Aston Martin's just not quite there, but Fernando Alonso is there and is waiting for his car. Number 8, I think we both agree. Again, Red Bull, number 2. Whether that's Sergio, I think even if it's Sergio, it'll still be number 8. Even if it's not Sergio, I still think that they're going to have to adjust to the new car since they're not going to be there this year, and it's still going to end up in 8th. 7, very respectable, very tasteful, Kimi Antonelli. I think he's going to have a great rookie year, and I think 7th is very showing of that. Now here's where we're going to mix it up a little bit. In 6th, give me Oscar Piastri. I think that is genuinely where he's going to finish. I think that he's not quite there yet. I think that he's close, but there is so much talent ahead of him that he still has to catch up to, and he is chomping at the bit, but he's just not there yet. Number 5, give me George Russell. I think he's going to have a year. I think it's going to be great. I think he's going to be the head of Mercedes. He's going to love all the attention, but there's still 4 people that are going to finish ahead of him. At number 4, give me Lando Norris. I think that he is going to bring the fight. I think that it's going to be a great finish with McLaren finishing 4 and 6. And I don't see him getting a podium. And the reason why we'll get to.
Okay, you don't see him getting a podium in this standings, but he will get a podium in the season.
Geez. Yeah, no, he's going to get wins. I guarantee you that. But no, he's not going to get a podium when it comes to the final standings.
Okay, so like you mentioned, our 10 through 7, very similar. The only difference being that I had Sainz in 10 and you have Gasly in 10. I don't think Gasly's going to be 10, but I'm fine with that. I might be overhyping Sainz at Williams a little bit just because I really want Carlos to do well. I really do. I hope Carlos just does so well. But like you said, 6 is where we get a little bit off the rails, where you start throwing McLaren drivers and I start throwing Ferrari drivers. So I go from 6 to 4. I go Hamilton, Leclerc, Russell. You go Piastri, Russell, Norris. Those are very different lists. I talked a little bit about why I put Ferrari where I did. We talked about them in the constructors. I don't have any reasoning for this. You're right on the experience. You're right about the hunger. Charles wants to win. You're right. Lewis wants number 8. 100%. Ferrari wants to do well by both of the drivers. I agree. I just don't think it's going to work. I don't know why. I can't rationalize it. It is a gut feeling I have that it is not going to be the, crazy results they want. Maybe in 26 with the new regulations. 26 is the curveball here. It's a wild card. It's the Wild West for teams and their car builds. I think next year things kind of play out more similar to this year, where it's the McLaren show. And Ferrari's different next year. Ferrari doesn't have the Charles and Carlos pairing. You're bringing Lewis into the mix, which they're going to favor. I think that doesn't do them any favors as a team. I think it detracts from the overall team rather than improves it.
Okay.
And that's why I put both of the Ferrari drivers outside the top 4.
All right.
Give me, I guess, your just overall reasoning why you have both McLaren drivers outside the top 3 when, as we stand right now, both McLaren drivers are in the top 4.
I really can't explain this until we get into our top 3. I'm going to have to hold off.
Ouch. Okay, let's move into the top 3. You gave the teaser, so give me your top 3.
In the third spot, give me Sir Lewis Hamilton. I don't see him coming in second, and I don't see him winning the whole thing. In the second spot, give me 4-time champion Max Verstappen. I don't see him winning his 5th, not this year, maybe in the future, but it's not going to happen this year. And in the number 1 spot, with his first ever Drivers' Championship win, give me Charles Leclerc. And now I'll explain a little bit. The reason I have McLaren out of the top 3, and the reason I have Sir Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc in the top 3 is because I don't see what you said. I don't see them favoring Lewis Hamilton. I see Ferrari being Ferrari and building the fastest car. Charles is used to this. Charles knows the team, and I think that Charles will take advantage of this moment. Ferrari will bring the car that I trust that they're going to bring, and he's going to win his first ever championship. He got so close. He tasted it in 2022 when him and Max went back and forth. I think he's ready for it. He wants it more than anybody else. I think he's going to get his first. And I think Lewis Hamilton is going to give it everything he has, but his battle is going to be with Max for the second spot, and he's going to fall just shy in his first year at Ferrari by falling to third. As far as Max, I just don't see that Red Bull car being the top car anymore. And with how much he struggled to get wins in the second half of the season, I just don't see him pulling it off.
Okay. We agree on one of the top 3. We do not agree on the other 2. Number 3, give me Oscar Piastri. I'll explain in a minute. Number 2, give me Max Verstappen, the one that we agree on, falling just short of his next title. And number 1, also getting his first title, comparing it to your guy, Lando Norris. I think Oscar is there. I think Oscar is ready to win. I think if Oscar was, I think if Lando wasn't on McLaren and it was, just Oscar's team, I think he could be easily in the 1 spot there. But I think they will go into next season favoring Lando now that they know what they're capable of. I think things came very quickly to McLaren this year. Their first wins for both drivers, ultimately likely going to seal the Constructors Championship unless some crazy stuff goes down in Abu Dhabi. I think that came on a lot quicker than Zach Brown thought. So I think next year they go in with a strategy of how to be a winning team. And that is, hey, look, we're going to get all the points we can get. We are going to favor Lando if and when that situation presents itself. So that's why I have Lando Norris finishing first. I agree. Max is probably still the best driver in the world. He is the best driver in the world. He will not have the car to back up his abilities. He can outperform the car like we have seen time after time this year where he pulls off wins that he has no business winning. But he will not be able to catch the pace of the McLaren that I think is just on a whole other level, especially considering that the cars next year will be very similar to the cars this year. Red Bull loses Newey, McLaren stays the same. I think McLaren has the consistency going into next year to, like I said, just blow it out. They have the same driver pairings, the same team, the same type of car setup. they will run away with both the constructors and the drivers championship. I'm not going to say, I mean, Lando's, I think, is going to run away with it, whatever that means in terms of running away with it. But having both of your drivers in the top three is pretty significant, I think.
I think we're going to have a dogfight for the championship up until the very end of the season. I think Lewis Hamilton's going to get wins. I think Max is going to get wins. I think that Leclerc is going to get wins, and I think Lando is definitely going to get some wins. I think we'll every now and then see a sneak away from George Russell, Oscar Piastri, but I think the fight's going to be between Lando, Leclerc, Hamilton, and Max Verstappen for the championship. But I see that Leclerc's going to take it, and because Lewis is in third, they're going to dominate in the constructors at the very end of the season, and that's when they're going to win. What did I say? 2 races? No, we'll get to that. I think that's my wild card. Little teaser there for you.
I think kind of similar. I think we have multiple race winners next year. I'll say that I think there's going to be 6 race winners, and it's the top 6 that I have. I don't think anybody outside the top 6 will win a race. So that stops at Kimi Antonelli. I don't think he's going to win a race. So your points are going to be pretty bunched up, like you said. Lando's not going to have a 2023 Max Verstappen season. He's not going to win 19 races.
No.
But again, I think that he's just going to run away with that car and its performance and have a year. So
do you see Lando and Oscar trading wins, or who do you see Lando trading wins with?
Trading might not be the right word. I think Lando is going to have
Majority.
a really, really good season. I think Oscar's going to be battling with Max and Russell a lot. And then the Ferraris will sneak in one at a time and pick points here or there. But I think Norris will, from wire to wire, pretty much be your season leader the whole time.
Okay.
Not going to win every race, but you win one of the first 3 and then you just kind of stay up there for the rest of the season. I don't think it's a battle after like going into the last like 3 races of the season. Okay. Last couple of topics. Let's move into rookie rankings. So this one is tough, but a little bit easier this year now that we've actually seen a couple of these guys get time behind the wheel. We've seen Liam Lawson a handful of times. We've seen Ollie Behrman a handful of times. We will get to see Jack Doohan at least in one race this season as he goes into the car for Abu Dhabi. But correct me if I'm wrong. We have not seen Kimi Antonelli and we've not seen Gabriele Bortoleto.
Unless you're a diehard fan and you've done some digging on Kimi Antonelli's testing, there is footage out there. There's no footage on Bortoleto, though, as far as, I mean, we saw him, do the rookie testing where they let him do practice 1?
Yeah, they've all jumped up and done a practice or so with
that's
the rule.
Really it.
Yeah, because the rule states that you've got to let your academy guys do a session here or there. This one we don't have to spend a ton of time on. I'll say how we did these. We did not do these by points standings because that would be a lot easier because like Kimi Antonelli would be number 1 on both of our lists. This is more subjective. Just how do we think they're going to do in terms of their rookie season? When you look back at the end of 2025, did they do well in the car? Did they perform as expected, better than expected, or below expected? Or how did they stack up against the other rookies? I'll give my 5, and then you give your 5. I'll go 5-1. Number 5, give me Jack Doohan in the last spot. He's going into the Alpine seat, which I have really low in my rankings. That's why I have him there. I don't think he's going to be able to show off very much. Number 4, give me Bortoleto. He's going into the Kickstake Sauber car. Similar story as the Alpine. I don't think he will be able to show off very much there, so it's very tough to rank him against the other 3. Number 3, Kimi Antonelli in the Mercedes. I think he will perform as expected. He will be a good driver entering the Mercedes system, ready to take a prime seat one day when that's available, whether it's at Mercedes or another top team. He will do no better, no worse. That's adequate. Number 2, Ollie Behrman. We've seen flashes of greatness when he was in his Ferrari, a little bit in his one race in a Haas. He also finished, I think, 12th in a Haas. He finished 12th and 10 in the Haas. Better than expected, which is why I have him at number 2. Number 1, though, Liam Lawson. This is a guy that is going to be competing for a number 1 seed at a team within the next 1 to 2 seasons. He is going to try and just show out on that RB team.
Okay. I think that we have a lot of similarities, but enough differences that it'll be interesting. In my fifth spot, give me Bortoletto. I haven't seen a lot of him. I've watched F2. He's doing great in F2, but that doesn't always translate to F1. We saw cases like Nick DeVries where it just didn't translate over as well as we thought that it would. I don't see enough to really know what's going to happen. And if we're going to look at what car he's going to stake. So we're not going to see him getting to battle a whole bunch with a bunch of people. Giving me in the fifth spot for him, Jack Doohan in the fourth spot. Now, this one I have flipped from you with Bortoletto and Doohan, and the reason why is because I think Doohan has more experience. He's a little bit older. He's been waiting. He does a lot of the, F1 post race show and F1 post qualifying and all that, where he has a lot of information to offer, and I think that that's credible. I mean, I think that he's got a well knowledge base behind him, and I think that he's going to do pretty decent in that Alpine. In the third spot, give me Oliver Behrman. I think we saw a lot from him in the practice testing, and then we saw him in Carlos Sainz's Ferrari. We saw him in Kevin Magnussen's Haas scoring points. I think big things are coming from Oliver Behrman, and I'm absolutely pleased with that where I have him, because in the second spot, I've got Kimi Antonelli. I have personally done, I think, way too much research on this kid, and maybe it hypes him up a little bit in my mind, but I think that kid is going to be the next Max Verstappen. I think he's going to be great. I think that he's going to do awesome in his rookie year, which is why I have him seventh in the standings, but I think that he's going to be a strong seventh. I think he's going to be bringing the fight to the likes of Oscar Piastri, George Russell. I think that he's going to showcase his skills on a level that most rookies don't get the opportunity to, but also he deserves it because he has those skills. And then I think we both agree on the number one spot. Liam Lawson, he has the most experience in the F1 car of all the rookies, but also in the time that we have seen him in a car, he's been amazing. I mean, we saw him take over for Daniel Ricciardo last year for 3, 4, 5 races, something like that.
Yep.
Excuse me. And then we saw him take over for Daniel Ricciardo this year as he says goodbye to his F1 seat and hello to Liam Lawson. I think that he's done really well. I mean, we've seen a lot from him. I think he's aggressive. I think he's smart in the moves that he makes. I think that he's going to show out next year.
Yeah, not too much to debate here. I mean, we flip Doohan and Bortoletto, and we flip Antonelli and Behrman. We both have Doohan and Bortoletto at the bottom because, again, their cars are the limiting factor here.
Yeah,
I
but
think
it's not supposed to be based on your car.
I know we're just not going to see.
I haven't seen a lot from them.
Yeah, we haven't seen a lot from them, and I have it more as I don't think we're going to be able to see a lot. I have Alpine and Stake being dead last in the constructors. I don't think they will be able to show that they can outperform that car. They could have the drives of their life. They could be racing on the perfect racing line and still be dead last. They could be taking everything perfectly and still be last in those cars. When you have a 30-second pit stop time sitting and waiting at Stake, there ain't nothing good driving is going to do to show off at that point. Ollie Behrman and Kimi Antonelli. I don't know if I'm as hyped about Antonelli as you. I'm interested to see how Toto Wolff approaches that. George is supposed to be their guy, right? They've had George waiting in the wings for a long time. They went through the Williams system, brought him to Mercedes, but now is Antonelli the guy?
I think about it this way. So Lewis and Toto Wolff came onto the team at the exact same time, pretty much. Lewis had more F1 experience than Toto had, but they could kind of feed off of each other and build something incredible together. Valtteri came up through Williams under Toto, and then Toto went to Mercedes and eventually brings Valtteri to Mercedes. He raised Valtteri, for lack of a better term. He molded Valtteri into what he is and created Valtteri, and then Valtteri goes down. Incoming George Russell and Williams, he moves up to Mercedes. He molded George Russell. So while Valtteri was in the second spot at Mercedes, George Russell was in Williams, and he was molding Russell into becoming that second spot at Mercedes. Now he's in the second spot at Mercedes. We still have Lewis Hamilton. See us, Lewis Hamilton. Hello, George Russell in the first spot. And now we have a new toy for Toto Wolff, and that's Kimi Antonelli. Kimi Antonelli is the next George Russell. He's the next Valtteri Bottas. He's the toy for Toto Wolff to mold and create and see what he can do with all of this natural talent that he has from previous race seasons.
My only question for you, if Kimi's the next Max Verstappen, who's his Daniel Kvyat?
Jeez, I guess it was.
Don't piece that whole story together. He's got to take the seat among other things from somebody, and I just don't want to see it happen. All right, let's move into wild card.
It's George Russell.
Oh no. A lot's going to go wrong in George's life over the next couple of seasons. All right, give me your wild cards. Just go 1, 2, 3.
Okay. Number one, give me Kimmy not beating George Russell, but I guarantee you he's going to challenge him consistently for positioning. Now, what does that mean? That means in qualifying, he's going to be constantly going back and forth. Oh, Kimmy now has the fastest lap. Oh, George has the fastest lap. And maybe in some races beating George. But I think overall, George will win the majority of qualifying. And then in the same for races, I think that Kimmy's going to constantly be battling George in the races for positioning, with George ultimately ending up on top, getting more points. But I think Kimmy's going to be right there. I think that we're going to see an Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris situation here at Mercedes. Number two, Lewis Hamilton is going to win a minimum of 5 races. I say minimum because I'm a diehard fan. I want to see more, but I also have to be realistic. Going to a new team, doesn't have everything figured out just quite yet, but also the experience factor, how I think Ferrari's going to fix their car problems and have been fixing their car problems for the past 2-3 years. I just see a lot out of Lewis Hamilton, and I think that it's going to be great things. Now, I teased this a little bit by accident earlier on. For my third wild card, Charles Leclerc wins the title in Qatar. I think that this is the case. I think that Lewis is battling Max for second in the second half of the season as Charles starts to slowly pull away. I told you I think it's going to be a battle between Lando, Charles, Lewis, and Max, and I still think that that's the case. But for the first half of the season, and then things are slowly going to start tilting towards Charles Leclerc.
My only gripe with yours is you said, I've got to be realistic here, and then you proceeded to say Lewis Hamilton will win 5 races. When's the last time Lewis won 5 races? 2021?
He won 2 races this year, and in a car that finished 4th in the Constructors and nowhere near the points that the other top 3 teams got.
Yeah, that's a big jump for the old man.
He almost won 3, but George Russell pulled it out in Vegas.
I don't know if he's going to be able to climb to the top of the podium anymore.
He's not 100.
He's got to bring the walker out there and everything.
Although he's got 100 more wins than anybody else on the grid.
Oh! All right. Yeah. Calm down. Give Max another season.
That's probably wrong too, actually.
He'll get 100 wins next year. All right. My top 3 wild cards. Number 1, Charles Leclerc is going to outpace Lewis Hamilton consistently. Now, I have them finishing 5-6 in the drivers. I think that's deceptive because I think Charles will always just be a little bit ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Again, I don't have much that I'm basing the Ferrari thing other on. That's just how my gut feels about it. And that's why the wild card is the way that it is. Number 2, this one is really fun. I'm back on the Carlos hype train once again for the 3rd time in this episode. Carlos Sainz will get more points in his first season at Williams than Alex Albon has in his first 3. In 3 seasons at Williams, Albon has recorded 43 points. Now, that is not including Abu Dhabi 2024. So if he gets points in Abu Dhabi, that could change a little bit, I guess. But, whatever. Give me Carlos Sainz to get 44 more points next year in the Williams. Number 3, this one is highly subjective, but you get where I'm going with this. Kick, Stake, Sauber, whatever their name is, they will fully give up before the Audi takeover in 2026. We're going to see the longest pit stop times, the car breaking down left and right, drivers flying off track, false starts, penalties, grid place penalties, engine component penalties.
So you think it's just going to be a repeat of this year?
But even worse, somehow, because they kind of recovered on the whole pit stop thing and the whole kind of like component thing, it will be a complete disaster because they have been fully acquired by Audi. Audi's bringing in a lot of new people. They're keeping some of the people the same, they say, but I question how long that's actually going to last when they actually walk into the door on day 1 and take over. I think they just don't care next year. Why would they? They've got nothing to lose.
Okay. So you have Carlos Sainz getting, I'm sorry, how many points?
He's got to beat 43, so 44 plus.
Jeez, man.
He can so do it, dude. He can so do it. You've seen what Albon can do in that car, and then he proceeds to plow into a wall at 200 miles an hour. Carlos ain't going into that wall.
Okay. So he would have to finish minimum 9th or higher in every single race.
Or just sneak up and grab a top 6 every once in a while, top 7. He can do it, man. It's Carlos.
Wow. Okay. All right.
He's an elite level driver. You can't tell me that he's not an elite level driver.
No, without a doubt. I absolutely think that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll have all that kind of going on the screen throughout this video. As always, let us know in the comments what your way too early predictions are. We want your constructors and your drivers especially. Let us know how you think the season shakes out. We have a very big difference of opinion on the Ferrari team and the McLaren team for next year. So let us know if you side with one of us, or hey, is Aston Martin finally going to piece it together with their first year with Newey? Do they jump up and win the whole thing with Lance Stroll being at the helm of that?
Jeez. Guys.
What a change.
No, because I got one too. Guys, Valtteri Bottas to the 2nd Red Bull spot? Get out of here. But that'd be cool.
All right, we'll see you.
Bye, guys.